When I play a video game, I'm typically playing for a bunch of key and core reasons. Maybe I want to build facilities and buildings meant to last. Maybe I want to prove my clear and utter tactical superiority on random AIs that are intended to let me win if I try hard enough. Maybe I simply want to experience something deeply and thoroughly weird. Maybe I feel like wasting my life away playing Bee Swarm Simulator. But more so than anything, I've got one thing on my mind. Funny explosions. You see them, and you love them. Explosions are such a fundamental part of the gaming experience, but half of our improvements to graphics can be best described as making explosions boomier. And the other half is shadows, oftentimes left in the wake of really big explosions. While a visual spectacle, they also tend to serve a mechanical purpose. It's the sudden release of a large amount of energy, which fundamentally feels great. It's a sudden spike of action, a sudden surge of power that massively outpaces any surge that you'd have gathered thus far. It's an amazing feeling, and one not inherently stuck to just that original explosion effects. That's the value of effects such as, to be on topic briefly, something such as plant food in PVZ2. It's a certain effect filled with power that feels great to pull off successfully. Using a plant food effect to reverse a tide will always feel amazing. Though, this is a video about Cherry Bomb, a plant that does not have a plant food effect, and is also extremely literally and explosive. So, this has been a waste of my time. Joking aside, Cherry Bomb is your de facto explosive in PVZ2, functioning as your standard heavy insta plant. It was even one of your first plants in PVZ1, though I believe it had far less of an impact on how PVZ1 is played than it does of how PVZ2 is played. And thus, this is a video aiming to discuss that. Because truthfully, Cherry Bomb might just be the single most consequential plant PVZ2 has ever seen, all rooted into a very particular change that happened shortly after release. But I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I? Cherry Bomb is based on, well, a cherry, and a cherry bomb. These are basically small bombs they gave to kids in America for a few decades, before people realized that these things could actually just kill people. They are basically just tiny explosive devices, which is ironic considering Cherry Bomb itself is much more of a heavy instant plant, though I suppose there is always heavier. Regardless, Cherry Bomb is the first damaging insta you unlock in PVZ1, and technically the second in PVZ2, depending on how you count Potato Mine, Demiums, and what have you. Its effect is always extremely simple. When placed, it will kill everything in a freelance-free area. That's it. Now to be more precise, in PVZ2, it does 1,800 damage and pieces armor. This means that I can't technically kill everything, and will miss a kill on Gargantuars, requiring 2 instants to destroy, and mechs, which will all be left on mostly negligible HP. While as an insta it doesn't have a plant food effect, it is one of the main plants made stronger from the ability to use plant food to instantly recharge plants. It essentially gives you a permanent freelance-free high damage plant food effect to be used really whenever, which is pretty okay. Though also perfectly standard as far as plant food effects go. Of course, it also has the ash effect. This isn't really all that important, but it interferes with a few zombie effects, and also introduces a few weird bugs here and there. For instance, Ash to guards can still throw over imps, and zombies like Importer and Server won't play out their effects correctly. While a unique trait, and one mostly exclusive to Plant vs. Zombies 2, it's not really why you were using Cherry Bomb. In PVZ1, Cherry Bomb has 50 seconds recharge. In PVZ2, it only has 35. Let's get this out of the way right now. 35 seconds recharge for Cherry Bomb is pretty much the central topic of this video. Cherry Bomb being as insanely overpowered and definitive as it is really just down to this number. So I figured it would be best to first explain why Cherry Bomb has 35 seconds recharge. Because if you aren't aware, it actually used to be 50 seconds as it was in PVZ1. And this is all because of 1.7. The single most impactful update PVZ2 has ever received, as it functionally reworked everything. On release, PVZ2 was a little mixed among players. It was more PVZ, and people were happy with that for sure. But the original game was, well, weak. The vast majority of plants were just straight up PVZ1 plants, and the new plants weren't exactly interesting or super game-changing. Like, you had melee plants now in Bok Choy and Snapdragon, but you also have Bloomerang. Bloomerang is not an interesting idea. While this was obviously due to PVZ1 plants generally serving better as plants to be locked early due to their inherent simplicity and whatnot, it definitely made the initial lineup weaker, and was made much worse due to mechanics such as keys and stars, essentially meaning you needed to clear stages over and over and over and over again. Which was, to be frank, an extremely slow and grindy system that was actively terrible. So, 1.7 essentially put in a ton of effort to speed up the game as a whole. Before 1.7, each level could be replayed up to 3 times with different objectives to give additional stars. This is no longer a thing, and instead those levels with objectives are just separate levels in sequence. The same apply to keys and their separate routes, focusing on minigames or save our seas levels. These are now simply normal levels that can appear in the main sequence, with no optional or side levels present. It also added the Zomboss fights to each world, and the Gargantua fights, which were originally not present at all. This was all done to help simplify the experience. The difference of worlds designed after the shift are, in a word, dramatic too. Even just counting the conveyors shows that, before Dark Ages, conveyors were exceptionally rare, and only appeared for those aforementioned stages in Pirate Seas or Wild West. Meanwhile, Dark Ages has conveyors introducing the premiums, and Big Wave Beach has an absolute ton of conveyors used almost endlessly, which would become the new style. This was done to speed up the game significantly, and offer some more cheap frills to keep the play's momentum going. To expand on this, they actually rebalanced a lot of the game's plants. Sun production was increased from 25 sun per to 50 sun per, with zombies also spawning themselves at a faster rate. Even a speed up button was introduced here, as it didn't need to actually be in the game. This is also when they changed the recharges. Before 1.7, a pea shooter took 7.5 seconds to recharge. After that, it took 5 seconds. And this was a universal change applied to every plant, meaning every plant now had a 33% faster recharge. On paper, this makes sense, but I feel like this wasn't exactly thought out well. After all, not every plant uses their recharge equally. A plant like Iceberg Lettuce becomes significantly better at stalling when it has 1/3 less recharge, especially as its duration did not change. And, well, Cherry Bomb is no exception. In fact, it gained a disproportionate amount of power from the change, and PVZ2 could never quite escape it. "35 seconds recharge on Cherry Bomb is a weird change to quantify, because it's hard to get across just how dominant this change actually was, especially because, as someone who plays mods, this is a change that universally is reverted, even reflourished. A mod dedicated to staying as close to vanilla as possible ended up reverting this change to make Cherry Bomb 50 seconds recharge instead, which should say more than enough about how insane this change really was. Heck, look at all level packs! This is all doable thanks to Cherry Bomb. Here's the thing, with PVZ2 in particular, your max damage output is really not all that high, excluding CDMs and premiums and GMiums. Your best offensive options that aren't manual are pretty consistently down to melons. It's actually really rare to get higher DPS against a single zombie than a repeater, too. Only Citron and Peapod actually do single target DPS higher than repeater. All other options are manual, in the case of Coconut Cannon, Banana Launcher, and Magnifying Grass, or our Dusk Lobber, which does that much damage due to Splash. Why did I bring this up? Well, because this means that Cherry Bomb is disproportionately stronger than any other option you have access to for damage. In the same time, your average attacking can do, let's say, 1000 damage, not even enough to kill a Buckethead. Cherry Bomb can deal 800 more damage to every single zombie in a 300 radius. That is ridiculous. And this is fully operational since Wave 1, and often will only be gone for 2 waves or so if you aren't rushing them. That is, to be frank, utterly insane. Want to know something even more insane? Power Lily is a really strong plant in PVZ2, for obvious reasons. That thing has a recharge of 60 seconds, almost double that of Cherry Bomb. I want to point out that some of the better plant food effects are literally just cherry bombs. In many cases, an imitated cherry bomb is actively better than running Power Lily. Although this is admittedly a very focused and pretty stupid way of looking at all this. And you know, you can't start cherry bombs. The important thing is that, in terms of damage, Cherry Bomb deals so much more damage than anything around it than basically any other option the player has. Cherry Bomb doesn't really scale with time like other attackers do, but because stages get so short in PVZ2, this barely matters, right? And this line of thinking is how we get to the stupidest part of PVZ2 ever. So, instas synergize with instas. Like, a lot. Because the more instas you have, the less downtime you have between them. And they'll especially love slowdown effects, as that both clumps zombies up so you can hit more of them, and slows zombies down, meaning you have more time to place down more instas against them. And it's not like one of the best plants in all PVZ2 was a staller, is it? Insta spam is, bizarrely, one of the most reliable strategies in the entire game. Which makes a lot of sense when you think about it. It works with the strongest main attacker to get massive value out of instas like Cherry Bomb. And instas like Cherry Bomb include Primal Potato Mine, a Cherry Bomb with 25 seconds recharge. You can genuinely control the vast majority of the field by just carefully placing Primal Potatoes on top of the enemies, often with a Stunion, and then using a plant food to triple it into 3 mass explosives in the general direction of the enemies. There's legitimately extremely little that can survive this, and the thing that does are Gargantuars, who are big enough to just get caught in a second explosion later. It also doesn't interact in most of the game. Zombie stats don't matter anymore, as they'll kill them all the same, and zombies that need to get close never get a chance to be. The only specials that matter are those with long-range attacks, but out of the 3 that exist, one is Hunter and does barely anything, Wizard removes all his sheep from the field when he's killed, and Octos just get clogged with his sunflowers in front of the wintermelons. It's even a fairly cheap strategy, as you only really need 2 wintermelons most of the time, if that. And if that's not doable, just use Stalia. It's not that hard. Of course, this is me acting like insta-spam is an exclusive strategy to going all in. There's a reason why every good person at PVZ2 will recommend using as many instas as possible in your decks, because this behavior is so strong, you don't even need to build around it. Instas are still your absolute best option for damage regardless, and so stacking them is often far more valuable than most other plants. And to be frank, the plants it synergizes with are plants you should always be bringing. Slowdown effects are powerful in general after all, so you often bring them regardless of what you're planning to do. And well, the other big synergy is instas. I'd argue that this is what causes Cherry Bomb to define PVZ2, because if Cherry Bomb had just a little extra recharge, this wouldn't be the case in the same way at all. But I think it's notable that even when plants do get nerfed, you still see the impact Cherry Bomb left on how PVZ2 mods are played. I'd argue that if Cherry Bomb didn't have the stats it did, people playing these mods wouldn't be so aware of how powerful instas can truly be. And without Cherry Bomb and Vanilla, plants like Grape Shot wouldn't be nearly as effective. After all, they wouldn't be given the same recharge if Cherry Bomb had a longer one. Though I think this leaves a single question worth asking. Is this good or bad for the game? Because to be honest, I'm really not sure. Insta-spam's effect on the game is, well, significant, as I believe I've been able to impart that much. To be frank, PVZ2 would not at all be the game it is now without this playstyle. A lot of its gameplay hinges on the fast-paced style, after all, and it's what has become so iconic about the game. It is also important to note that the effect these changes have on the average player is more minor than you'd think. The full extent of insta-spam relies on instas to be in large numbers, after all. You only get your second Cherry Bomb in Dressing Marsh, however, so the full extent is not really felt. I'd argue that Cherry Bomb being so powerful is actually good for the game. After all, one of the main points of the 1.7 update was increasing the speed of the game, so the player feels more consistently engaged throughout the experience. Cherry Bomb's fast recharge basically ensures that the player always has a means to influence the field in a major way. Especially when combined with other mechanics such as plant food, I'd say that this combined actually accomplishes exactly what the original intent was, truthfully. I'd argue that the bigger problem was what came later, with Perennial Potato Mine, Grape Shot and Pomegranate. These plants offered ways for you to gain more cherry bombs, which formed the dominant strategy. In fact, even beyond the obvious, I think there is a genuine flaw in how the game designed its later plants. After Banana Launcher, no plant costs more than 200 sun. I am entirely serious. The only plant that even costs 200 sun is Pepper Pult, a plant of absolutely no use. Because of its lack of heavy plants, your highest form of damage is still going to be instas for the entire game. I seriously find the plant unlocks in general extremely lacking. That's not to say there are absolutely no good plans for dealing damage. Bowling Bulb and Banana Launcher are both very strong plans for dealing damage, as well as plans like Coconut Cannon, but I do think the game needed to do more to make more standard plans more effective. There is a reason why plants like Wintermelon never fell off, after all, and there is a reason why mods pretty universally feel the need to incorporate the premiums and seediums into the main game. But even still, I think PVZ2 as a standalone game is better off with Cherry Bomb and even the other instas being as strong as they are. Like, it's important to note that I look at the game with a very experienced angle. Most people do not think of spamming instas every single level to the point that nothing else matters. Plenty of people will still rather run stupid crap instead of true and utter meta. I'm absolutely not the intended audience of this game, so it doesn't exactly matter what I say in regards to the game being good or bad, truthfully. As far as anyone should be concerned, the goal was to make a fast-paced strategy game. PVZ2 is a fast-paced strategy game. And considering PVZ2 is pretty undeniably a success, well, who am I to nitpick at the seams, eh? All in all, Cherry Bomb's importance kinda just comes down to filling the criteria. And to be honest, PVZ2 was seriously molded by many other plants and choices made throughout its creation. Really, this video is equally as much about how 1.7 redesigned PVZ2, as much as it is about Cherry Bomb. But I honestly think that's okay. 1.7 was such a fundamentally dramatic change to PVZ2, that its effects kinda created a PVZ2 we all know and love. In many regards, PVZ2 is only known as what came after 1.7. Because to be frank, 1.7 is a patch people who beg for massive overalls dream of. So anyways, video of all time. While I have been struggling with videos quote-unquote recently, I'm kinda hoping this will be my first step to getting back in a groove. Whether or not that's the case is yet to be seen, so no promises, but we'll see. I'm also getting back into streaming if that's more your jam, so go watch those, I guess. But with that being said, this video is well and truly over, so let me wrap things up properly, eh? This has been Creeps, and have a good one.